is a tragedy of immense proportions. A woman and her 2-year-old infant died while her husband and daughter were injured after an under-construction metro pillar fell on their two-wheeler in Karnataka's Bengaluru earlier today. Officials say the couple and their twin children, a daughter and a son, were passing through this stretch on their bike when the iron pillar crashed on them. The lady, identified as Tejaswini, and her son Vihan sustained grievous injuries. They were rushed to the nearby hospital. They could not survive. Tejaswini's husband Lohit and her daughter are being treated at the hospital. Lohit was driving the bike and Tejaswini was the pillion rider. The police say that both of them were wearing helmets. The pillar, made of metal rods, was about 40 feet long and from the looks of it, heavy enough to crush any human to death. The work has now been suspended along the outer ring road for 2 days. This is a busy stretch of road in Bengaluru. It could have been anyone who used that route on a daily basis. It was a disaster waiting to happen, and we'll tell you why. From killer potholes to collapsing bridges, no end to the misery of the common man. Taxpayers getting crushed under the very infrastructure that they pay for from their humble incomes as taxes. The excuses are always flimsy, a human error, an unforeseen circumstance. But if there is one thing that comes through, it is zero value for human life. Families shattered, children die, young mother and toddler crushed, as it happened in this case. But nothing moves, no conscience is shaken, no change effected, hardly any heads roll. And before we know it, it's business as usual, until another tragedy strikes and we raise the heckles again on fixing accountability and punishing the guilty. My question is, who do we turn to as citizens? Those with power and influence seem to have become immune to these tragedies. From this platform, a number of times, I have raised these questions. But the fact of the matter is, it just doesn't seem to be hitting the eyes or ears of those who can make a change. Let me introduce here. In fact, let me first go across to my colleagues on the ground. Thoya is joining me from that spot, I believe, where this happened. And Neha, my colleague, will also be joining me shortly to tell us what the BMRCL has to say, what is the statement coming in from the authorities. Thoya, first, over to you. You're right there at the spot. Describe to us this location and how, you know, it was carelessness, negligence of the worst kind, isn't it? To have heavy metal hanging, heavy metal construction in a busy stretch where so many people commute every day?
Is in question.
Well, that's absolutely, Afrida. I can tell you, right now I'm standing over here at the location at the Nagawara metro. Metro is under construction, whereas you can see that this is the pillar which has been collapsed. This pink line metro construction was started in the year of 2021. This is a stretch from Nagawara to Bangalore International Airport, Devanali. While the construction was going on this morning, an 18-meter pillar was under construction. It was collapsed, and a mother and son have lost their lives in this incident. The metro staff took them to the hospital, which is right over here, and they had taken them to the hospital, and the victims did not respond for the treatment, so the doctors declared they are dead. The family has registered an FIR on BMRCL at the Govindapura police station today. The DCP East, Mr. Bhima Shankar Guled, has also given his statement stating that we have taken the complaint from the family and we will act accordingly, and the investigation has already started. Today, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai, in Dharwad, he gives a statement stating that we will also do an investigation on this, and we will also give a compensation for the family. The BMRCL has announced financial assistance and giving 20 lakhs to compensation for the family, and not only the MD of BMRCL, but he's also an IAS officer, Mr. Anjum Parvaz, who had visited the spot. And
what we are going to do, Thoya, will play out what Mr. Anjum said, the chief of BMRCL. We have all of that with us. But before that, quickly to Neha. Neha, the statement that has come now from the authorities, What is their point of view? What do they have to say? Because this, by any account, looks like a case of sheer negligence. This could have been averted if proper precautions were taken.
Well, absolutely, Afrida. First of all, we must flag off over here that the BMRCL, initially, in fact, was not even responding on this issue despite multiple efforts to try and reach out to them. Finally, after there was some media pressure on them that came on, they, in fact, chose to react to this. And the kind of reaction that's come in there, really, of course, shows one how serious they are about addressing the issue. We spoke with the chief, in fact, PRO also of the BMRCL, and they went on to say that, this is, of course, something that they regret. But with that being said, when we questioned them multiple times about the action that's going to be taken against their staff as well as against the contractor, they said if lapses are found, then action would be taken. So the question really boils down to, Afrida, that if there weren't any lapses, if there was no negligence, then why is it that two innocent people lost their lives today? Now let's actually come down to this. We've seen in the past as well, whenever there's been action promised, be it by the BMRCL, the BBMP or any civic agency for that matter, that there is in fact, lip service that's done on the day of the incident, where you have the top officials of the department coming forward and saying immediate action would be taken. A day later, we're seeing show cause notices that are issued. A day after which we are seeing the officers are suspended, probably temporarily pending investigation. And if found guilty, then they're just, temporarily transferred. The bigger question about accountability that we've been raising on Mirror Now with several issues as to when there's going to be a full stop to the authorities making false promises and when there's going to be some sort of onus or responsibility that they're going to start taking for the lives of hard-earned tax-paying citizens who are really, paying taxes through their nose.
Yes, and
right
the
now.
highest officers in the state must speak up, isn't it, Neha? It's simply not just the civic body who can be let off. People who are elected to power should have at least, that much of sincerity to respond to a situation like this. I thank you, Thoya and Neha, for joining us today. Let's listen in to some important inputs coming in, including the reactions coming in from the civic authorities.
A very unfortunate incident has happened near Nagwara at 10:30, where the reinforcement was completed for an 18-meter pillar, and that pillar fell on the road, and one family was traveling on the scooter, husband, wife and two children. So the injury happened to the mother and the daughter. They were immediately moved to the hospital. But unfortunately, after reaching hospital, they tried their level best to save them. But unfortunately, both of them has expired. It's a very unfortunate incident. And in BMRCL, this kind of incident has happened for the first time. As per my discussion with my technical people, all precautions were taken. In spite of that, this has happened. So we have to go into the detailed investigation.
All right, all precautions were taken. We will go into the detailed investigation. So that is the chief of BMRCL speaking to Mirror Now. Let me introduce Mr. Harish Bijur, who's a brand guru, also a resident of Bengaluru, joining us here this evening. Very good evening, Mr. Bijur. It's an extremely unfortunate day where we are reporting the unfortunate death of a mother and a child. Is Mr. Bijur able to hear me? Okay, I think I'm told that he's not able to hear me. Let's fix that first. But what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the tragedy that has struck a family of four. Parents, two twin children, a daughter and a son. Two of them crushed to death because of civic apathy, because of sheer negligence of authorities, because it cannot be anything else. If there were proper precautions taken, if this stretch was cordoned off, if it was so dangerous for commuters to take this stretch, why wasn't it cordoned off? Why were commuters allowed if there is an under construction bridge that is precarious enough that can collapse? Who should have envisaged this? There is some authority who's responsible for regular supervision. Somebody out there was not doing their job. Is Mr. Bijur connected with us? Okay, let me go across to my other two guests while we try and connect Mr. Harish Bijur with us. I also have KV Dhananjay and Chitra Sharma joining us here this evening. I am going to go across to Chitra first because she's a resident of this area. Chitra Sharma ji, good evening. If you can tell me, what is this area really like? Because I have friends who live in this part of the city and they tell me it's an absolute chaos. It's a mess. And it is almost like, you are navigating through death traps as you commute this area. Is that correct?
In fact, we have a circle called the Veeranapalia circle. Okay, you should see that in the morning around 10. And then when the children are coming back from school, at that time, there is chaos, noise, pollution. You have people who are totally unempathetic. They want to get the first way of the road. And you'll have buses coming in, you'll have autos trying to get a space over there. And in spite of sitting in a car, I'm not really very comfortable. Okay, I keep telling my driver, you be there, let them go. Let them go and then we'll go. But this incident was really shocking. We go down that road, we travel quite close to the metro barricades. Okay, so I feel very sad at the apathy of people who are supposed to be very, very careful. They are building in the midst of so much of traffic. Okay, there will be bulldozers, there are cranes, and they really don't care. The crane would have just, taken the entire road space, and we'll all be waiting in a queue for him to go away. So it is always like there is a disaster ready to happen. It's a very sad state. And a young life is lost. That's what I feel bad about.
So what can we say? I mean, the fact is that you and me, our hearts bleed to see this. But those who are responsible to maintain a certain sanctity when it comes to these projects, to ensure that it doesn't pose any danger to the citizen, there are people out there who are supposed to ensure that this does not pose any threat to the public, are not doing their jobs. K.V. Dhananjay, advocate of the Supreme Court and Karnataka High Court, is also with us. Mr. Dhananjay, what can we do? Where do we go? Who do we report to? If nothing changes, and if it's always business as usual, and more lives are snuffed out prematurely. Think about a 2-year-old infant. How do we go about this? Because clearly, in the name of building global cities, we do not want to pay with our lives.
Well, it's a very tragic incident. I've got to say that I have to, and there's no way that we will be able to fully comprehend the loss here. We have to acknowledge that. Having said that, the metro, is a project that's run by BMRCL, and BMRCL was set up as a corporate entity in the belief that a corporate entity would be able to secure better safety and security. And what we find today is that that's all belied. And, we talk about going to the moon, we talk about waging a war with Pakistan, but I think we just have to forget about all that. And we have to make sure that we have, security and safety on our roads. We have roads without potholes. And in this case, the tragic thing also is that there's nobody within BMRCL to come forward and say that, look, what just happened because of this and this factor, and these bad factors are not present in other areas where we've been working. We don't have anybody from the BMRCL who would come forward and say that. And more importantly,
we did have the BMRCL
who's
chief.
really tending...
He said we will do a detailed investigation, and as of now, he's not clear how this could have happened. He said all precautions are taken. That is what the chief of BMRCL had to say. We played it out for our viewers.
True, and that's a worrying sign. So how are people supposed to feel secure when because BMRCL the metro project is always much of the metro project is still in some stage of construction. So how are people supposed to feel safe and secure?
And the other problem is, the excuse that will be given here is that we cannot shut down this route because that will further lead to congestion. It's already a congested city. So in a way, the authorities are failing to even ensure that these routes, which are dangerous, are being kept open. That is what it is, isn't it? Chitraji, can you tell me, if these routes are so dangerous, why are they kept open?
See, we don't have alternate routes, correct? We don't have, we are a very small city. First of all, at the rate we are growing, I don't know if the city can take that kind of pressure. Okay, you have lots of people. They've all come out to work now. So what will they do? They have to go through the roads. Schools have started. They have to take those roads to go to the school. So I think you need to take onus. It's very easy to blame the government. It's so easy to blame everybody around. But when will people take responsibility for their work? And what kind of investigation will they take? These kind of incidents have happened in other states too. Do you hear about it? No. Do you see if the people have been asked to take responsibility? We talk of corruption, we talk of money, we talk of so many things. But okay, corruption is a way of life, is what we say. But when will the people responsible to do their jobs take up the onus of safe way of operation? This is such a big project. Your metro, and frankly, between the metro line and the roads, we don't have much space. In fact, if you go down the Nagwara, from Nagwara, if you go to Hennur and things like that, you'll find that, the excess traffic, each one bullying the other to go. Take the first. You'll have suddenly a bike coming out of the blue and trying to go on the footpath. Or I will not even blame him because he has to reach his places on time. Correct? So I think rather than blame, let there be a work trail. Give contracts only to people who have a track record of at least 10, 15 years. Do they have the capable people?
No, that is perhaps done. But even then, these instances are happening.
Yes.
On paper, Mr. Dhananjay, probably you can tell us better that what is the due diligence that we expect here? Where are the failures and how can we pin responsibility?
Well, it was expected of the BMRCL chief to name who really were the people working on this. And, you don't need a detailed study to make a prima facie observation. And it's not as if whatever BMRCL states is going to lead to the imminent arrest of the individuals concerned. Now, again, we will take anybody will take BMRCL seriously if only the BMRCL chief or someone there would go visit the hospital and then make financial arrangements for this family. I mean, for the people to receive treatment. I hear that the other people also have been injured and they must be in a hospital. And then, the problem I think here is that we've complained enough about corruption and India is not getting better any day. We are falling on the charts. Transparency International has this annual rankings and we are falling every year. So enough has been said about corruption, and we have laws and the due diligence question that you had is, well, you see, the same due diligence that would apply when you are doing, when you're building anything in a public place. So, there is the BBMP laws are quite strict, or these are far more stringent than what you have in New York. And yet, kindly see what happens here. The pillar, fell in a manner as if it's like a stack of cards. So obviously, somebody who was allotted this work did such a shoddy job. And this is criminal negligence, so much so that one would have expected to see an FIR and an effort by the police to, probably arrest the individuals involved. The contractor or whoever was assigned this job probably knew that, well, he's free to do whatever, he wants, and there would not be a criminal consequence for whatever he does. And this is really the problem. Will
we even get to know, Mr. Dhananjay? That's the question. Whether it was substandard material, whether it was lack of proper supervision, whether this was a precarious structure waiting to collapse. Was there nobody who was monitoring this construction site to realize that here is something that can crash? This is unbelievable that, it was an under construction metro project left to, crash at any moment while you have commuters using that route.
Anytime you have a project of this nature, there is always somebody who is responsible to, whose responsibility extends to making sure that the construction would not collapse in this manner. So the law would, expect it would be a site manager or a supervisor. Perhaps the police could have registered an FIR and then named that person as the accused, in which event he
Somebody
probably
will
could
be
go to the
booked,
police
but
and say
I
that, sir.
doubt very much that the higher authorities will be held responsible. And heads must roll, but it's not simply the smallest fish in the
way that
entire
works is,
food chain. That is how it always happens. I'm out of time here. Thank you so much for joining us, KV Dhananjay and Chitra Sharma, for giving us your time and for sharing with us your views.